faithfully delivering value and interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Club. Today we're discussing You Are What You Eat with the subtitle Healing Through Diet. Eat right to prevent illness. Do you believe dietary therapy actually works? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments section. Recent studies increasingly reveal how closely many diseases are linked to our diets. For instance, extensive epidemiological evidence shows high-salt diets significantly increase hypertension risk, while high-fat, high-cholesterol diets elevate risks for cancers like colorectal, breast, and prostate cancer. Poor eating habits trigger diseases, while proper nutrition plays a crucial role in prevention and treatment. Here we're mainly discussing chronic non-communicable diseases like hypertension, hyperlipidemia, tumors, diabetes, and coronary heart disease, often shortened to chronic diseases. Today's book explores the relationship between nutrition and chronic diseases. The author Xia Men directs the clinical nutrition department at Beijing Anzhen Hospital, distilling over a decade of clinical experience in this work. There's an interesting backstory about how the author entered clinical nutrition. Over a decade ago, he worked as a neurologist. In his 40s, excessive work caused sudden kidney disease. His doctor predicted he'd be stable for about 10 years. Terrified, he wondered, would he need dialysis to survive after 10 years? Despite numerous treatments and medications, his condition worsened with new complications like blood pressure and lipid issues. Piston medication side effects caused him tremendous suffering. By chance, he attended a nutrition workshop and began adjusting his diet while studying.
Remarkably, all his health markers normalized within just 3 months. He continued learning while establishing Anzhen Hospital's clinical nutrition department. In practice, he emphasizes integrating Western medicine with nutrition, helping over 100,000 patients regain health during 10+ years.
Drawing on years of theory and clinical practice, the book reveals intricate connections between disease and poor nutrition. I'll break down the book's core content into 3 sections. First, why do people get sick? What's the secret to staying healthy? Second, what dietary issues do Chinese people face? So, how exactly should we eat? Third, what's the relationship between common diseases and diet? First part, let's understand the essence of disease, which is why people get sick. We know the human body is made of cells, and throughout life, most cells are constantly renewing. Through regeneration, we repair damage. If cell damage outpaces repair, people get sick. Therefore, disease is a battle between cell damage and repair. Beyond natural lifespan and injuries, what daily factors cause cell damage? The answer is unhealthy mental states and poor lifestyles like diet, exercise, and sleep. The more severe these poor lifestyles and the more types accumulated, the greater the cell damage. Diseases like coronary heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, tumors, depression, and chronic kidney disease are all linked to inappropriate lifestyles. Then, what factors affect cell repairability? Beyond innate factors, the most crucial is postnatal nutrition, meaning your daily diet, because they're the sole material for cell repair. Without enough, repair speed and quality suffer. When cell damage slows and repair material is ample, meaning nutrition is on track, disease improves and may even be cured. For example, if someone quits smoking, damage to the respiratory tract decreases. Then, by supplementing targeted nutrition, their chronic bronchitis gradually improves. For healthy people wanting to avoid illness, they also need enough cell repair components from diet to meet repair and renewal needs. So, what are these cell repair components? They are the 7 essential nutrients the body needs: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, dietary fiber, and water. The nutrients human foods come in countless varieties but ultimately provide these 7 major nutrients. How do these nutrients repair cell damage? Mainly through 4 aspects. First, providing energy for cell metabolism. Food, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins are key energy-producing nutrients. Second, they form cell structures. Human cells are primarily composed of proteins and lipids, like phospholipids and cholesterol, with assistance from vitamins and minerals. Now, third, enzymes regulate cellular metabolism. Cellular metabolism occurs through enzymatic catalysis. The main component of enzymes is protein, while the auxiliary part, called coenzyme, primarily consists of vitamins and minerals. Additionally, the endocrine system plays a vital role in regulating cellular metabolism. Its secreted hormones are also mainly composed of proteins or cholesterol. Fourth, dietary fiber, among other nutrients, helps nourish our gut bacteria. The human body contains 40 to 60 trillion cells, while our bacterial count is 10 times higher, primarily in the gut. These gut bacteria are crucial to our health, sustained by dietary fiber from food. The 7 nutrients each play distinct roles in providing materials and support for cellular repair. Both deficiency and excess of nutrients cause problems. Take protein, our body's fundamental building block. Immune systems, brain, nerves, skin, muscles, organs, blood, even nails and hair are primarily protein-based. Deficiency first shows as stunted growth in children or brittle hair in adults. Severe cases lead to low immunity, muscle weakness, digestive issues, anemia, and osteoporosis. The problem is, people rarely connect these symptoms to protein deficiency. Many think osteoporosis just means calcium deficiency, when it could actually be protein deficiency. Protein exists as collagen in bones, enhancing their flexibility. It also provides attachment points for minerals, ensuring bone hardness. Thus, protein deficiency naturally causes osteoporosis. Excessive protein intake also causes issues. For example, protein beyond digestive capacity causes gastrointestinal disorders, while excess metabolites damage liver and kidneys. This applies to other nutrients too. Therefore, maintaining health requires balanced intake of all 7 nutrients in daily diet.
All right, that concludes the first part.
As we discussed, people get sick because cell damage outpaces repair, and the secret to staying healthy lies in balancing the 7 essential nutrients in daily diet for cell repair. Right. However, influenced by traditional Chinese eating habits and recent nutritional advice from the US and other Western countries, Chinese people face many dietary imbalances. Part 1. In this second part, we'll explore these problems. The first issue is insufficient consumption of meat, eggs, and dairy, mainly for 3 reasons. First, dietary habits. In China's dietary structure, daily meals in most regions focus on grains and vegetables, with animal-based foods naturally consumed less. Second, incorrect dietary advice. In recent years, influenced by nutritional guidelines from the US and other Western countries, many people avoid meat, eggs, and dairy more, believing they cause obesity. Third, cholesterol concerns, like thinking egg yolks raise body cholesterol. In reality, these diseases only occur when animal-based food intake is excessive and unbalanced over the long term. The U.S. dietary guidelines specifically restrict animal foods because they consume far too much. For example, Americans drink milk like water. To control intake, U.S. experts recommend adults have no more than 720 milliliters of milk daily, while in China, few reach this amount. Third, some avoid animal foods due to food safety concerns. The author mentions a patient example. This patient suddenly had a cerebral infection, as he frequently followed food safety news.
After seeing too much, he became afraid to eat meat due to antibiotics, drink milk, or eat eggs due to contaminated chicken feed.
Over time, his body developed a protein deficiency. Blood's main component is protein, which led to low blood pressure. Food safety is indeed a concern now and in the future, but we shouldn't abandon these foods entirely out of fear. Abandoning them means nutrient deficiencies, and the body has its own detox abilities. Normal bowel movements, urination, and sweating can eliminate harmful substances. If people aren't picky or biased eaters, even if they ingest some harmful substances, the body can expel some. So, how should we eat meat, eggs, and dairy? When it comes to meat, livestock, poultry, and fish each have their own strengths. None is an all-around champion. Therefore, we should diversify the meat on our tables. People with anemia need to pay special attention to meat intake. Animal meat is not only rich in iron, but also has high absorption rates, reaching up to 25%. In contrast, iron in plant-based foods is interfered with by phytates and oxalates, resulting in low absorption rates of only about 3%. Besides eating meat, Chinese people should also increase intake of milk and dairy products. Except for dietary fiber, milk provides almost all the nutrients the human body needs. It's worth mentioning that milk is the best food for calcium supplementation. 1 cup of about 300 grams can meet half of the daily calcium requirement. Many studies show that adequate calcium intake is highly beneficial for maintaining stable blood pressure, reducing the incidence of stroke and heart disease, and alleviating menopausal symptoms. Now, and people who are lactose intolerant can consume dairy through yogurt, cheese, and other alternatives. Now, speaking of eggs, the most noteworthy nutrient is phospholipids. As mentioned earlier, phospholipids are structural components of human cells. A person needs about 1 gram per day, and one egg contains approximately 700 milligrams. You might have heard that soybeans are also rich in phospholipids, but to provide 1 gram, you'd need to eat 100 grams of soybeans daily. Not only for phospholipids, but legumes also can't replace meat, eggs, and dairy in other nutritional aspects. For example, with the most important protein, although many sources show that legumes have higher protein content than animal foods like meat, eggs, and milk, the amino acid profile of legumes is far from that of humans, so it can't be fully absorbed and utilized. Instead, it needs to be excreted through the liver and kidneys, adding burden to these organs. Therefore, to comprehensively evaluate a nutrient in food, we should not only look at its content, but also its bioavailability. If Chinese people eat less meat, eggs, and milk, what do they eat more of? The answer is carbohydrates, commonly known as staple foods. The second issue in Chinese-style diets is consuming too much staple food. In our traditional dietary structure, staple foods or grains play a very important role. This is partly because China is an agrarian society where grains are the most accessible food. On the other hand, carbohydrates provide energy for the body. The more physically demanding the activity, like farming, the more carbs you need. But compared to our ancestors, modern lifestyles have changed dramatically. Most people have limited daily activity and energy expenditure. If you consume too many carbs, you'll have energy surplus. Where does that extra energy go? It all gets converted into stored fat. So overweight individuals should especially monitor their staple food intake. The author reminds us, when eating, don't overlook dishes that look like vegetables but are actually starches, like blueberry yam or spicy potato shreds. They should count as staple foods. Having covered staple foods, let's discuss oil, the third major issue in Chinese diets. Nowadays, many people avoid oil, especially saturated fats, seeing them as total villains that cause hypertension and high cholesterol when overconsumed. Actually, these views on oil mainly originate from U.S. dietary guidelines. In American diets, fats account for about 34% of total energy, with especially high saturated fat intake from foods like steak, pork chops, milk, cheese, and butter. And saturated fats are actually essential for our bodies, but excess causes problems like hypertension and high cholesterol. And however, traditional Chinese diets focus on grains and vegetables, with naturally limited animal-based foods. So we actually don't need to worry much about how much oil we consume. What truly matters is oil quality, specifically the fatty acid ratio. You might have heard this term in TV commercials. 1:1:1. It refers to the ratio between saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fatty acids in oil. The now recommended information, inquisitive, also 3:4:3. So what are the main food sources for each? Saturated fats mainly come from animal fats, coconut oil, and palm oil. Monounsaturated fats mainly come from camellia seed oil, olive oil, etc. Polyunsaturated fats mainly come from corn oil, peanut oil, soybean oil, and marine fish. It's worth noting that lard contains 43.2% saturated fat, 47.9% monounsaturated fat, and more polyunsaturated fat than beef tallow or mutton tallow. From a fatty acid ratio perspective, lard performs quite well, so there's no need to dismiss it as worthless whenever fatty meat or lard is mentioned. Now, looking at vegetable oils, everyone says olive oil is great. However, camellia seed oil has slightly higher monounsaturated fats than olive oil, and its polyunsaturated fat content is also very similar. When cooking, you can mix oils to achieve a more balanced fatty acid profile. For example, take an oil bottle, pour in half camellia seed oil rich in monounsaturated fats, then add half corn oil rich in polyunsaturated fats, and use the mixture. In short, most Chinese people don't consume excessive oil, so you don't need to constantly try to cut down. Focusing on oil quality is more crucial. Finally, let's discuss the topic of eating vegetables and fruits. Vegetables are rich in vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin B2, and carotenoids, and they're also the primary source of dietary fiber. They're vital for weight loss and lowering blood sugar, especially for preventing colon cancer. Chinese people eat large amounts of vegetables, but statistics show dietary fiber intake is still insufficient, and colon cancer remains prevalent in many cities, partly because people can't distinguish real vegetables. For instance, many think stir-fried potato shreds are vegetables, but potatoes contain 17.2% starch. They belong to staple foods, not vegetables. Similarly, boiled peanuts aren't vegetables either, they're classified as nuts. Additionally, many traditional Chinese foods, like pickled vegetables and salted veggies, have most vitamins and minerals depleted, and their salt or nitrates often exceed limits, so they shouldn't count as vegetables. Now, think about it. After excluding these, what vegetables are left on your dining table? Moreover, not all vegetables are equal. Eating them right and well is quite a science. The author offers 3 suggestions. First, look at color. Research shows vegetable nutritional value closely relates to color. Darker colors generally mean higher nutrition, with green vegetables topping, for example, broccoli's nutritional value is 88 times that of cauliflower. 3, 2, 1, 2. Second, look at the part. Nutrient levels vary depending on the vegetable section. For example, vegetable roots absorb various nutrients from soil to sustain their growth. Therefore, the stem base near roots is nutrient-rich. Root vegetables like lotus root have higher nutritional value than grains. Leaves are where photosynthesis occurs. Thus, leaves are highly nutritious too. Celery leaves contain 6 times more carotene than celery stalks. Third, consider freshness. Eat vegetables soon after purchase. Long storage causes significant nutrient loss, even when refrigerated. For example, green peas lose 77% of vitamin C after a week in fridge, but vegetables flash frozen below -18 degrees Celsius retain similar nutrition to fresh ones. And this was the most unprobiological clip. Vegetables with higher sugar content and thicker skins, like green beans and bell peppers, are more suitable for frozen storage. Moving from vegetables to fruits. Fruits are rich in vitamins, minerals, fiber, and bioactive compounds that support cell differentiation, greatly benefiting health and disease prevention. Research shows regular fruit consumption significantly lowers chronic disease risks like tumors. Yet, in Chinese diets, fruits are often seen as snacks or desserts. Many blame them for obesity and diabetes, reducing consumption, but these views are biased.
First, regarding fruit and diabetes, fruits contain fructose, which has low glycemic index.
Diabetics can consume them. Glycemic index measures how quickly foods raise blood sugar. If 100 grams glucose has GI of 100, 100 grams steamed bun is 88, while fructose is only 23. Thus, most fruits don't spike blood sugar significantly. Then, does eating more fruit cause obesity? This actually depends on timing. Chinese eating habits favor post-meal fruits, but fruits are carb-heavy hidden staples. Having them as dessert after full meals adds extra calories, increasing obesity risk. So when should we eat fruits? The 2016 Chinese dietary guidelines feature a food plate with 4 components that should be included in every meal: grains, tubers, vegetables, fish, meat, eggs, and fruits. This means fruits should be part of the main meal. All right, that concludes the second part on dietary issues and misconceptions among Chinese people. Recognizing these is crucial because long-term dietary imbalances lead to various diseases. I've selected 4 common diseases from the book to discuss. First, coronary heart disease, CHD, heart disease caused by narrowed or blocked coronary arteries. As mentioned earlier, every cell has a life cycle with constant replacement, but vascular endothelial cells renew exceptionally fast, about 1 day. Within this daily cycle, aging endothelial cells release apoptotic factors, signaling basal cells to divide vigorously, replenishing cells to maintain smooth vessel linings. If new endothelial cells form too slowly or poorly, causing surface defects, it triggers platelet aggregation, forming clots that block vessels. From earlier discussions, we know maintaining normal cell growth requires raw materials, nutrients. So, what nutrients do these vascular endothelial cells prefer? The proteins, phospholipids, cholesterol, etc. mentioned before. Where do they come from? First, directly from animal-based foods. Meat, eggs, milk, fish are excellent sources. But repairing endothelial cells isn't just about animal foods. It also relies on liver synthesis, especially at night while sleeping. The liver converts stored nutrients into forms directly usable by cells. Then, via low-density lipoprotein, LDL carriers, these nutrients transport to endothelial cells for repair. However, if LDL oxidizes, blood scavengers, monocyte macrophages, recognize and engulf it, triggering atherosclerotic plaque formation and excessive buildup. Eventually, this blocks the blood vessels. So, to prevent coronary heart disease, we should consume adequate animal-based foods to support rapid vascular endothelial cell renewal. And additionally, ensure low-density lipoprotein transporters aren't oxidized by consuming antioxidants. Vitamins A, C, and E form the body's antioxidant iron triangle for optimal synergy. Vitamin A mainly comes from animal foods, especially pork liver, which has the highest content.
Vitamin E primarily comes from vegetable oils and nuts, while fruits ensure sufficient vitamin C supply.
Finally, ensure adequate nighttime rest so the liver can properly complete its work. Moving from coronary disease, let's discuss thyroid nodules. Thyroid nodules are lumps formed by abnormal cell growth in thyroid tissue. Thyroid nodules have become a very common health issue. Causes are debated. Some attribute it to excessive iodine salt intake, others to insufficient iodine. So what's the truth? To clarify, we must first understand the thyroid's working mechanism. Thyroid hormone critically influences brain excitability and metabolic rate. Excess hormone increases brain cell activity, causing insomnia, heart palpitations, muscle tremors, and sweating. Deficiency leads to low energy and overall weakness. Thyroid cells store pre-secreted hormone. When needed, they release it into the bloodstream, commanding cells throughout the body to work frantically, revving up metabolism. Thyroid cells produce hormone daily using basic raw materials, iodine and amino acids. Daily iodine intake is 150 micrograms per person. 1/3 goes to the thyroid. Amino acids from protein form thyroglobulin, which combines with iodine to produce hormone. When dietary iodine or protein is insufficient, hormone production drops, prompting the hypothalamus commander to instinctively suspect deficiency. Reduced thyroid hormone is because the thyroid is slacking off, so it releases more TSH to command the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland, this middle manager, receives the command and delegates by releasing more thyroid-stimulating hormone. And now, these commands act like whips, driving the thyroid to work harder and increase thyroxine secretion. But this process not only boosts hormone production, but also promotes malignant thyroid cell proliferation. An ultrasound at this stage would show multiple thyroid nodules. If you maintain poor eating habits long-term, nutrient deficiencies become the fundamental problem. Even with endless commands, the thyroid can't produce more hormone, yet the growth signals persist, making nodules appear worse on ultrasound. Ultimately, thyroid nodules result from chronic deficiencies in protein, iodine, or both. So when we see nodules, don't immediately consider medication or surgery. First, evaluate if nutrient deficiency is the cause and supplement protein. We've covered protein extensively, so how to supplement iodine. Many think iodized salt is sufficient, but in reality, iodine loss during salt production, storage, and transportation is significant, so additional sources are needed. The author recommends seafood like wakame, nori, kelp, and dried shrimp rich in iodine, yet data shows coastal residents actually develop more thyroid nodules. Why? Because coastal populations have historically relied on seafood as dietary staples. To maintain iodine balance, they evolved lower gastrointestinal iodine absorption through gene expression. Now, with diverse food choices, many coastal residents eat less seafood, but retain ancestral genes for low iodine absorption. Thus, coastal people neglecting iodine intake become more prone to nodules, even thyroid cancer, than inland populations. Those with thyroid nodules should first evaluate their iodine-rich food intake. Additionally, supplement with meat, eggs, and dairy to provide thyroid cells with necessary materials for precise hormone secretion. This ensures thyroid health. Next, let's discuss constipation and diet. Speaking of constipation, we typically think of eating more fruits or vegetables for fiber and drinking yogurt for probiotics. The book offers a unique perspective. Constipation may stem from muscle weakness due to nutritional deficiency. Meaning your constipation might result from insufficient meat intake. Gastrointestinal muscles are smooth muscles. These involuntary muscles have autonomous contraction rhythms. You can't control gut peristalsis frequency. Malnourished smooth muscles become weak, causing gastrointestinal dysfunction and constipation. The author observed many constipation patients consuming ample probiotics and fiber still struggling. Diet reviews revealed their smooth muscle weakness came from inadequate animal-based foods. Smooth muscles contract through sliding myosin and actin proteins. Protein deficiency impairs these contractile proteins, and since muscles are protein phospholipid cholesterol-based cells, lacking animal foods creates raw material shortages for muscle cells. Finally, depression. This mental illness strongly links to serotonin deficiency. Serotonin, 5-hydroxytryptamine, plays crucial roles in cognitive functions like memory and mood. All relate to serotonin. Deficiency in this neurotransmitter increases depression risk. Research shows serotonin synthesis requires tryptophan, omega-3s, magnesium, and zinc. Tryptophan is an essential amino acid the body can't produce, only obtainable through diet. So, which foods contain tryptophan? Animal-based foods have the highest concentrations. Legumes contain some. Omega-3s are abundant in deep-sea fish. Magnesium is found in whole grains, leafy greens, and seafood. Oysters have the highest zinc content, followed by animal offal. So, depression patients must eat more animal-based foods, including offal weekly, to potentially alleviate symptoms. Since 2004, the author has added dietary guidance for outpatients using antidepressants. He found that with nutritional counseling, patients not only improved physically, but could also taper off antidepressants faster with lower relapse rates. Beyond these conditions, the book details dozens of other illnesses intricately linked to diet. So, when feeling unwell, first reflect on your eating habits and consider nutrient-related causes and solutions. All right, that wraps up our discussion of You Are What You Eat. Find the reading notes below the audio. See you next time.